Hold on, stop scrolling. If you're a believer of Christ and you love to do a Bible study, then this video is for you. So in the book of Revelation chapter 12, it talks about this one part called the woman and the dragon. And that woman that is in the Bible was giving birth to a child. And as the woman was about to give birth to the child, there was a dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns who was about to devour the baby as soon as it was about to get born. In verse 5, it says she gave birth to a son who was to rule all nations with an iron rod, and her child was snatched away from the dragon and was caught up to God and to his throne. And after that, the woman fled into the wilderness so that God could take care of her for over 1,260 days. After that, there was a war that broke out in heaven that included Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon and his angels. This is going back to the biblical roots when Lucifer wanted to rebel against God, because he decided that he wanted to have his own kingdom. But we know that in verse 8, it says the dragon lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven. Then in verse 10, it says, "Then I heard a loud voice shout across the heavens." So we're going to skip this part right here and read this. "For the accuser, which is the devil, of our brothers and sisters, hath been thrown down to earth, the one who accuses them before our God day and night." And in verse 11, it says, "And they have defeated him by what? By the power of the Lamb," who is referring to Jesus Christ, "and by their testimony." And then we go down to verse 12, and you go down to this part right here. It says this, "But terror will come down on the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you in great anger, knowing that he has little time." So after Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, the devil knows this, and he is freaking out. Because since Jesus has already conquered death, millions of people are receiving their salvation through him because of the gospel, and the devil is freaking out because he lost the battle. But as we continue, let's read verse 13 and 14. In verse 13, it says, "When the dragon realized that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child." But it says she was given wings of an eagle so that she could fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, so that she could be protected from the dragon. But in verse 15, it says, "Then the dragon tried to throw down the woman with a flood of water that flowed from his mouth. But because of the earth, the plan backfired on the dragon, because the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the same exact water that gushed out of the dragon's mouth." And here's the interesting part. In verse 17, it says, "And the dragon was angry at the woman and declared war against the rest of her children. And these are all who have kept God's commandments and maintained their testimony for Jesus." But if you were to read the King James Version, it says this, "And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed." The word remnant basically means the last remains, the last remaining, which means if you are a born-again believer of Christ, then you will be known as one of the last remaining Christians, the last remaining people who are still fighting for God's kingdom, who deny themselves and follow Jesus every single day. Now that right there is some tough revelation.